On this edition of Around BCC, we kick off a new academic year by spending some time with BCC President Dr. John Sprague. Our alumni profile is literally a member of the family, and we look at the kickoff to college events as new students prepare for their first taste of college life. Welcome to Around BCC. I'm Keith Tebow. Hope you had a great summer. We are beginning our 12th season of bringing you news and notes about the people, events, and academic programs at Bristol Community College. And as has been tradition with our program, our first new show of the academic year, we also feature the president of Bristol Community College, and we spend a few moments with President Dr. John Sprague. President Sprague, thank you. And we say this every summer, Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year, Keith. You're off to another great start for a wonderful academic year. And you know, you mentioned the 12th year. It's my 12th year. Right. If you remember, we came pretty much together.
Right.
And people were talking about Y2K and the whole world was going to crash in 2000. And now here we are 12 years later, still going strong.
And so much has happened over the 12 years, and we will maybe delve into a little bit. But let's talk a little bit about last year, the one that just finished, the 2010-2011 academic year. It was another good year for BCC. Things were stable in terms of the college providing the services, and as you say, the main thing, yes. Education. Talk a little bit about how last year went for the college, and we'll talk about 2011, 2012.
Well, we really had the great good fortune of the stimulus money.
Right.
That really saved us, and it was a great buoyancy for the budget for our college, and we were able to do some wonderful initiatives, undertake access for students, and preserve, as you say, the main thing. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult. And it enabled us to transition into this coming year. It was kind of a warning, if you will, and we were able to plan accordingly. Although we don't have stimulus money for this year coming, that really put us over the smooth transition from last year.
And let's look at 2011-2012 academic year. Unfortunately, the college had to raise fees for students,
yes,
which took effect this summer and will take effect throughout this year.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, you mentioned the stimulus funds that helped the college last year. Talk about the decision of needing to raise fees, unfortunately, this year.
Yes, it was very difficult. It's an agonizing decision that we've only, fortunately, we haven't had to do it too often in the 12 years that I've been here.
Right.
But the Board of Trustees sets the fees, and on our recommendation, of course, and it was a very difficult decision. We, again, I mentioned that stimulus money was disappearing. The budget was cut by the governor, not as badly as we had anticipated, so that the fees was an alternative, the last choice for us, and it was a very difficult decision. We aired it out with the Board of Trustees, the full board, as well as the Committee on Finance. And the numbers were so stark and realistic that it almost led to the foregone conclusion.
Now, let's talk a little bit about budget without getting into numbers, because people get confused about numbers and what they mean. But fiscally for this coming academic year, BCC, in terms of providing the services, still on a sound footing, and also in terms of employees and staff. Being here throughout the summer, I saw that there were even new faculty positions that were opened up, or replacing some other people. But it seems like that even though there are tough budget times, the college is still moving forward with its plans, and it really has to.
Well, we have to. Just a simple issue is that we provide state-of-the-art education. It doesn't do you any good to come here and train in a Model T, because then it wouldn't prepare you for the world that you're going to be working in. So we've got that responsibility to continue with the state-of-the-art and upgrade and professional development of our staff, and to be sure that everything is tip-top for the students and the quality of education. So you're right, very exciting news was that we added 10 new full-time faculty positions. We've added full-time positions non-faculty as well, because of the support staff. For example, in institutional research and our grants department, in the lack of adequate funding, grants become very important. So we've got to spread out our workload and our workforce so that we can meet the highest priorities of the college. And you're right, it was a very difficult decision about the fees and about some of the cutbacks in one area. But if we do what I like to call targeted investments, that we don't cut across the board whenever we're forced to make decisions, because some areas need to be spurred and galvanized to help carry the lower areas as well that have been cut.
BCC has always been one of the higher ranking community colleges in Massachusetts in terms of enrollment. I believe we're third last year?
Yes.
Third highest. Is that number going to stay about third or maybe even higher? How's it look this year?
Well, it's hard to catch the other two. There are 15 in the state. The two are in Boston area, Bunker Hill and Middlesex. So they have a large population base to draw upon.
Right, absolutely.
But we're third, and you know, we really have grown. In those 12 years, we've grown almost 75%. Wow. With the various openings of campuses and whatnot. So, and that's our job, is to provide access for students. So you're right, enrollment is the key, and we're right about level this year. We're hoping that it's always a concern for us to provide access to as many students as possible. And by the way, enrollment is roaringly high in distance learning.
Right.
Students are voting for the convenience, if you will, not the absence of rigor, but for the convenience of being able to do it at their own schedule. If you're working or your child care or whatever it is, you can go around your own schedule on these distance learning courses and still get the quality of education.
And that e-learning piece, is that one of those instances where the college can't afford to make cutbacks, or they really, that still needs to grow because of the demand?
Yes, it's very expensive,
Right.
the technology, as you know, in your operation. But we've got to do it. We've got to maintain the highest quality and the latest state-of-the-art to provide the students with the best service.
You know, it seemed like yesterday in some respects, when we first came on board here, the campus in New Bedford had started, and now the growth is just exponential, and we'll talk about, you know, New Bedford specifically. And in Attleboro, there's a new dean there in Attleboro. We can talk about Rodney Clark in a moment. But talk about how that has maybe, has the growth in those two locations actually been sort of a surprise for you in some respects? A welcome surprise in terms of just the popularity of what that means to the college?
Yes, New Bedford was. I thought that we would just take students from current students from New Bedford who were happening to come to Fall River, and now they would be able to go home and take courses in New Bedford. But in fact, we tapped into an heretofore untapped market of students in New Bedford and the greater area of New Bedford.
Right, absolutely.
So I was a little surprised, and pleasantly surprised, about New Bedford. I was not about Attleboro. I really had confidence that we could tap into a market that had not been really utilized well, and people of the greater Attleboro area, and they won't like it when I say this, but Taunton too, that's not the greater Attleboro area, but the Taunton and Attleboro targets are ways for us to provide access to students that didn't really have convenient ways to get to higher education.
Let's talk a little bit about New Bedford. The e-health learning program is now, believe it or not, in its second full academic year. Launched last fall. There was a big ribbon cutting last November, I believe it was, for the facility down in New Bedford. How's that going, and how's the partnership been with Princeton Review? Yes.
Well, the Princeton Review has kind of morphed into another entity that was still the same partners and many of the same people. It's now called Higher Education Partnerships. The name, there is still a Princeton Review, but now a kind of a new organization is working with us, so same people are involved, so we're very happy about that. And by the way, they have also spread to other they're talking to at least 2 or 3 other community colleges in Massachusetts, as well as other community colleges across the country that want to also be involved with the e-health and the way to move forward into this job market the community so critically needs. So the e-health, we've got the first year under our belt. We're rolling out a couple of new programs. By the way, the construction at 800 Purchase Street has been marvelous. And in fact, the facilities are so, as I mentioned before, state-of-the-art, that we're thinking of moving programs from Fall River permanently into New Bedford to take advantage of the wonderful facilities there. Those are still preliminary discussions, but one program, therapeutic massage, has already moved and is moved now entirely lock, stock, and barrel from Fall River into New Bedford. And I invite people to come and see the facility in New Bedford, because when you see the gorgeous state-of-the-art activities that we have there, you'll understand why we want the best for our students.
Are there also some classes shifting from the Star Store location as well to the eHealth building?
Well, the regular classroom courses are also moving because we need more space.
Right.
So Star Store is still going strong, and it is the seat of our New Bedford campus now, but 800 Purchase Street is now also considered part of the New Bedford campus.
There's been talk over the past couple of years of expanding even further into New Bedford. Can you give us a status on that? Yes,
we're having conversations with the mayor. A couple of exciting initiatives. One is just expanding what we already have. We're attracting students from New Bedford area, and we want to accommodate them. We can't say no. We can't fit you. The other exciting initiative is working with the mayor about early college and dropout prevention, and working with the superintendent in New Bedford. We're also working with the superintendent in Fall River on a Gates Foundation grant to, again, dropout recovery. Those are key issues for the public schools in every city. So we're hoping also to eventually go to Attleboro and Taunton with it as well. But the two key areas are dropout prevention, keep the students in school once they're they're already here, but also dropout recovery, getting them out there and bringing them back in, because the society is so complex now. You can't get a meaningful job without some college in on your dossier.
Yeah. Let's shift to Attleboro now. It's an opportunity for you to give some kudos, if you will, to Kathy Torpy-Gargant, who was the dean of that center from its beginning at the old high school, and of course moving into the new building at the old Texas Instruments site.
Yes.
And now we have an exciting new dean, Rodney Clark. No stranger to BCC.
No.
But talk about the great strides made in Attleboro.
Yes, we're very pleased. Kathy Garganta is now an associate vice president at the college. She's moved to other responsibilities, but Attleboro is a love of her heart, and it is very important for us. So she has been. We owe her a great debt of gratitude. We literally went from ground zero to about 1,500 students at Attleboro, including a couple of different sites before we found the building, and so she plugged along with us and very doggedly kept to her principles and her priorities, and we have what we have now. With Rodney Clark, who had been the Dean of Admissions, is now the Dean of the Attleboro campus, and we look to continue that same pattern. Of course, his focus is on access and affordability and for the community, and that fits right in with what then Dean Garganta had done. And also, while we're talking about Attleboro, I didn't want to lose track of Dean Teresa Romanovich in New Bedford. She also took it from ground zero and is now up close to 2,000 students there.
So good things in all of our locations at Bristol Community College. And let's talk a little bit about some new programs. Are there some new academic programs that students are taking part in this year? Some of them you may want to highlight?
Yes. Well, we have not new programs, but expanding the existing programs in our eHealth and in other areas of Attleboro and maybe even Taunton. But the one I'm very proud about is the degree program for paralegal studies. We've hired one of those 10 new faculty members is a paralegal specialist, a lawyer, who is going to help us get this program off to a great start. We have always seen it, or I have always seen it, in terms of the complement to the University of Massachusetts School of Law. It's a natural fit for us to help. I pledged my support to Chancellor Jean McCormick for any help we could give about that law school. That was a great step forward, a bold initiative by her, and we want to support her. So this paralegal program, we have now a certificate program and now a degree program, so you can get your 2-year degree as a paralegal. I'm very excited about that. And one other general area that we're moving into in new programs is what's so-called green studies,
right.
Environmental concerns. Sustainability is going to be with us forever, and we don't want to ever minimize the importance of climate control and our carbon footprint and conservation and the things that we can do here, both in the college operational areas, but also in the curriculum. Because we have to instill in the students what I call sustainability across the curriculum. No matter what courses you're in, you'll be acquainted with the principles of sustainability and the importance of environmental protection.
And the Green Center in Fall River has just been extremely popular from what I've seen since it opened. Again, that was last year as well.
Yes, yes. It was down on Duval Street.
Right.
They needed special facilities because they need high ceilings and special equipment for this training. We have credit and non-credit activities there, and we're very excited about it. And while we're talking about more space outside this campus in Fall River, I just want to mention that we have put out an RFP at this point, a request for proposals in Fall River for more space, and I hope that something affordable will be coming our way soon.
Let's talk a little bit more about space. Last year we had talked about that the college was part of the state bond bill for a new technology center.
Yes.
And there were some plans floating around last year about potential sites on the Fall River campus.
Yes.
What's the progress of that project?
Well, those plans continue to move forward. There was a bit of a delay at the state level because of funding. You wouldn't be surprised to learn that. But we're on the table. Bristol Community College is on the table competing for a slot on the bond bill. We've been approved. Our design is moving forward. I think in a couple of years we should have a new building here on the campus.
So that'll be exciting. We'll talk about that in a couple of years when we do this program.
So I'm
groundbreaking and ribbon cutting.
It's very exciting, yes.
So I guess going forward as we wrap up here, Dr. Sprague, students and their parents and family and people in this area should know that Bristol Community College is very much alive and well.
Absolutely.
Despite, challenges that everyone is facing in
Yes.
their own personal lives in terms of finances. And it should be hopefully another great year here at Bristol Community College.
Well, I think so. I think if people look around what's going on in the world, not just in America, economically, it's, they can understand some of the challenges that we face. And by the way, I wanted to say that another reassurance I give to for this year coming as well as the previous years is that we would have no layoffs due to fiscal contingencies.
So that's always good. And we'll be back here next year, God willing, and we'll hopefully talk about some of the great events and happenings at Bristol Community College. Dr. Sprague, I thank you for your time, and again, Happy New Year, and have a great year.
Well, thank you, Keith. Congratulations to you too. You do a wonderful service for the community, and I'm very grateful to be here and be with you.
Thank you. We'll have more of Around BCC right after this. Welcome back to Around BCC. Another tradition of the show is taking a look at some of the successful alumni that have come through Bristol Community College. And in this month's edition of Alumni in Your Community, we spotlight a person who is, well, let's say, near and dear to your humble host.
Hi, I'm Kevin Tebow, Bristol Community College, class of 1982. Well, I grew up in Fall River and grew up in the south end of Fall River, born and raised there. A lot of my interests were in baseball, but I also had a lot of interest in drawing, writing cartoons and so on. A small family, just me and my brother, and so we had a very small, close-knit family. I went to high school at Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School. That was where I really was starting to use my creative, I guess, needs as relates to drawing. Went to take drafting. While at Diamond, I realized that I needed to go to college to help improve my career, and I focused, based upon talking to my guidance counselor at Diamond, on civil engineering. It would be the closest to the architecture field and so on. So when I went to Bristol Community College, I entered into the engineering transfer program and got worked on my associate's degree in engineering transfer. And so it gave me the foundation, so when I transferred later to SMU, which is now UMass Dartmouth, I had that foundation set. I really had some amazing experiences at BCC because two things. One is to help me pay for school, I actually did work study. And so I actually worked at the old BCC campus down on the Durfee Street. And that was a good experience because I got to see the old school and meet with some of the old workers who had been there for a long time and did a lot of maintenance work and so on, but that was a great experience. And then my experience obviously in the main campus, one of the classes they taught us was surveying. And so one of the classes we had to go out was actually survey the boundaries of BCC, and a lot of people don't realize they have a huge campus there. There's a lot of acres. And I remember being out there looking for a monument out in the middle of those woods, way back where the tennis courts are, but there was no tennis courts when I was there. But way back there, and I ended up finding the monument that's the boundary between BCC's property and St. Patrick's Cemetery. When you tell people St. Patrick's Cemetery, it's like, oh my gosh, that's way out there. Then people don't realize how much land is out there. And the boundary also butts up against 24. And so we found the boundaries along Route 24, which is also very interesting. When I finished my, graduated in 1982, I got it done in the 2 years, and so then I transferred over to SMU and really focused on my last 2 years, or 2.5 years at SMU, on the core classes needed for civil engineering. The great foundation that BCC gave me was in the engineering in all fields, mechanical and so on. Then SMU gave me the specific discipline that I was looking for civil, and they allowed me to study structures and hydraulics and transportation, which is what I end up doing today. So when I completed my degree and got my degree at, and actually I finished my degree, my bachelor's at SMU at the end of 1984, I was very fortunate that I had developed a good relationship with a lot of the faculty there at SMU, and the department chairman of the civil engineering department actually gave me my first job, or got me to where my first job was. He had a former alumni who was looking for an entry-level engineer, and he called up his old school and said, hey, do you have somebody? And he gave him my name, and I interviewed and got the job. And so I was able to work for a small firm in Rhode Island that gave me the excellent experience you need when you're starting in the engineering field, because like doctors and lawyers and so on, you have to kind of be an intern for several years before you can get your license. And in order for you to get your license, you have to take a lot of tests. And the tests are very important that you get a lot of experience. And this small firm in Rhode Island, Power Engineering, gave me that experience. And so for those few years that I was with them, it was an excellent, excellent opportunity. In the late 80s, as the economy was changing here in New England, I was looking for other opportunities and was able to give a job offer in Orlando, Florida. And they relocated me to Orlando, worked for this major company that had thousands of engineers across the country in Orlando, and got to do some major work. A lot of the interstates and a lot of the turnpike work down there was done by this company, so it gave me more exposure in the transportation field. Eventually I ended up working with the Department of Transportation in Florida, first in their turnpike division, and I ended up working my way up to become the chief engineer for several years for Florida's Turnpike. Then I was working again with the private sector, working my way up, learning different things in transportation. So just a few years ago, I was the assistant secretary for the Florida Department of Transportation, which gave me an excellent experience in various parts of transportation, not only highways, but on rail and on transit and on airports and so on. Just recently, I was head up of, again, Florida's Turnpike. I ended up coming back to become the director of the Turnpike, as well as the director of Florida's high-speed rail program. Right now, I went back to the private sector after a number of years in the public sector, about 16 years. I went back to the private sector, working for a company called Parsons. They're a major company, have 11,000 employees, and my role with them is to work on state transportation programs and provide them look at markets in the different states, all 50 states. So I travel all over the United States, from Phoenix to Columbus, Ohio, from Detroit to as far as Florida, looking at opportunities where transportation improvements could be made, and Parsons could help make those dreams come true. And my wife, I met, she lived just a couple blocks from me, so we were high school sweethearts. We grew up together, and now we've been married 27 years. Wonderful, wonderful partner, wonderful friend. And I have 3 boys. My oldest is 25, my next one's 24, and then we have 11-year-olds. And so we have a very busy family. And I am also fortunate now to also have a grandson who is now 4. So they all keep me very busy. When I look back at my time at BCC, I remember what my guidance counselor said at Diamond, where he recognized that BCC would be an excellent opportunity to provide that foundation for me to grow, not only in schooling and engineering and university life or college life, but also in the future. And I look back at what BCC did, they did exactly that. They provided that strong foundation. The teachers there were great. They were able to relate to the class, even though many of us were from different backgrounds and different experiences and different schooling experiences. They were able to relate to the students, and they provided an excellent, excellent foundation for my future career.
I'd like to thank President Dr. John Sprague for joining us on this edition of Around BCC. That'll do it for this month's show. I'm Keith Tebow. We leave you today with a look at the college kickoff held on campus in late August. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next month.